Hello and welcome to Dread Network. My name is Blake and I'll be walking you through the strategy guide to Gruul on Heroic in the Blackrock Foundry. For this encounter you will need 2 tanks, 2 healers for a 10-man comp, 4 healers for a 20-man comp, and 6 healers for a 30-man comp. Now to get started, the first ability that you will learn in this encounter is called Inferno Slice. And what this will do is this will do a large amount of physical damage to the tank and also a huge amount of fire damage split amongst all players that are nearby of the tank. After this ability goes off, all players that are hit by the Inferno Slice will take a ticking dot that hits for moderate fire damage every 3 seconds. Now the way that you deal with this ability is that you have one group on one side of the boss and another group on the other side of the boss. Preferably the same amount of people so that you have split damage between both groups. You need probably the same amount of healers on both sides so they can get equal healing between both groups. You will also notice that this ability comes into play with another ability called Overwhelming Blows. Now what this is this is a tank ability that hits the tank for moderate physical damage, and also it will do damage to anyone within 10 yards of the tank. You need to make sure that your tanks are split up at all times and also out of the raid groups. Now, once Inferno Slice is about to come in, the tank that is holding the boss needs to move the boss to the raid group that he is hitting. Also, this ability will leave a debuff that will increase the damage taken by Overwhelming Blows by 10% each time he uses it. So basically that means that tanks need a taunt when their debuff goes. Now the hard part of this fight is judging when the tanks need to trade off, as well as trading off when to do the Inferno Slices. This requires communication between tanks, making sure that the debuff is going off and they can trade off, as well as the Inferno Slice will not overlap stacks. Now it is okay if the Inferno Slice gets up to 2 stacks, but try not to get past 3 stacks. Once it hits about 3 stacks, the raid healing will be a little hard to go through, and healers might be struggling and having to pop cooldowns. You want to try to avoid this as much as possible, so make sure the tanks know when to taunt, and just taunt after their debuff goes off. Now another ability in this encounter is called Petrifying Slam. Now what this ability does is it will affect a few players with a debuff that lasts for a few seconds. Now after the debuff ends, the players will be petrified and the boss will act Shatter. Now what Shatter does is it will do damage to all players within 8 yards of the petrified player. This means that you need to move out of the group once you get the debuff, so that it does not do damage to any other player in the group. Remember that you will not be the only person affected by the petrifying debuff, and also that it reduces your movement speed as time goes on, so make sure you stay away from other players that are moving out from the petrified debuff and move out quickly. Now as you may have noticed, there are these circles in the ground with wood and metal crashing on them. This is an ability called Cave In. This is where every second, if anyone stands in this, they will take a large amount of physical damage. This is where groups can become problematic on positioning wise. Now if your group is affected by this, you need to move out immediately so that your group does not get hit by an Inferno Slice followed by this. Just sidestep it and regroup on the side of this circle so you don't get hit with extra damage, causing healers to use their extra mana. Now another ability in this encounter is called Overhead Smash. This will cause Gruul to face a random player in the raid every once in a while, and do a frontal cone that does large nature damage to anyone in that frontal cone and knock you back. All you have to do to avoid this ability is just watch where Gruul is facing and make sure you are not in his path. As you can see, there is also a ground animation, but really it's easier to watch where he's facing than the ground animation because it does sort of blend in with the ground. Now the last thing you need to know about this encounter is that Gruul will go into a destructive rampage. Now what this will do is this will cause Gruul to go spam Overhead Smash for a few times. This is the easiest part of the encounter because all you have to do is just make sure you do not get hit by the Overhead Smash. So basically, just don't stand in front of the boss. So yeah, that's not really hard, and there's really no tank damage at all in this part of the encounter. So the good news is that there is an easy part of this encounter, and the bad news is that it only lasts for a few seconds, and that's pretty much it. In closing of this guide, I want to say that this boss was not really hard to deal with. It's mostly just a tanking fight, as long as the tanks know when to taunt and when to face the boss towards the raid and which groups. This fight is really easy. The damage is very underwhelming. Honestly, the only damage that seemed very high was the Inferno Slice, and that was just really instant healing, burst healing. So like Disc Priest, I suppose, would be very strong in this encounter, and that's more or less it. If you have any more questions about this fight, please leave them in the comments. I hope this guide was helpful, and if you found it helpful, please drop me a like. It really helps me out quite a lot. And also, make sure to comment, rate, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.